Welcome to Trivial Debates. I am your host, Ashley Millard, and this is episode 84, airing on June 30th, 2024. This month, we're diving into the fascinating world of cryptozoology, exploring the mysteries of monsters and mythical creatures. Joining us today are our incredible guests, Stephen Waters, a talented voice actor, visual artist, and co-host of the podcast. Hey, did you see this one? Stephen is an avid cryptid enthusiast with extensive knowledge of legendary creatures. Justin Vaughn, a deep diver into the unknown with a keen analytical approach to cryptozoology. And legendary cryptids, the host of the popular YouTube channel Truth is Scarier Than Fiction, who brings a storytelling flair and love for all things cryptid. Let's get ready for some thrilling debates as our contestants battle it out to see who will reign supreme in the world of cryptids. All right. We'll go first up with our movies question. What was the worst monster movie ever made? This can be either bad acting, directing, or least accurate to original source material. And we're starting off today with Stephen.
All right, I got a lot of sirens going on right here, so just give me 1 second. And some dogs howling. I guess that's ambiance for cryptids, right? All right. I think they're about to pass. All right. So I have chosen for my movie The Fourth Kind. Most people probably never saw this, didn't realize it existed, or when they did watch it, tried to forget. It's truly an unforgivable failure on so many levels. The concept of the movie is that they tried to make a cinematic movie and a documentary style movie playing at the same time, advertising it as a movie that has been spliced together with actual footage of real people with a cinematic movie to add this visual flair. 20% of the movie I think was great in editing, but choices to overuse the documentary footage broke the illusion so quickly that the remainder of the movie ended up being extremely cringy. There's a large missed opportunity that would have really made you question whether or not the documentary footage was real or fake, but tossing in bad CGI and overly faked murders on screen just breaks the illusion so quickly and ultimately ruins the movie. There could have been a moment where you walked off the theater and said, is this real? Is it not real? But it didn't do that.
Okay. All right. Justin.
Okay. So the worst monster movie ever made was definitely 2005's Alone in the Dark by U-Hole. Now, anyone who's seen this movie will understand how absolutely terrible it is from start to finish. There is literally nothing redeeming about it. But let's get into a couple of the reasons why this is actually the worst. The first, of course, being the inconsistent tone of the whole movie, which is typical of a Yule Ball movie. How much of the budget of this movie was actually spent on the numerous examples of Chekhov's gun that were never actually fired before the final scene? Did they use an actual gold box and spend most of the money on that and then just never use it again? I mean, the movie starts with a 90-minute or a 90-second rather text scroll of expository crap that most of it is completely irrelevant to the actual movie. I'm going to be honest, I tried to rewatch it in preparation for the debate, but I just couldn't do it. And I ended up watching old episodes of the reality show I Love New York from 2000 instead. So let that sink in.
Okay. And cryptids.
So to me, the worst monster movie of all time is Teenagers Battle the Thing. This was a 1958 black and white movie that was later re-released as a color film with some extra scenes added, and it is beyond awful. The monster shows up for a very small portion of the film, and it's not a long film, but the monster's somehow not even in 90% of it. It's just teenagers walking around with really bad dialogue, talking to each other. The monster itself was supposed to be some sort of 8-man Sasquatch looking thing. It looks so bad that it's actually a little bit creepy. effects on the mask for the monster are just awful. He has like bulging eyes. Seriously, look up a photo of this thing if you can. It has bulging, like mismatched eyes, and the camera quality isn't the greatest either. So that somehow adds even more negative aspects to the creature. And it is definitely 1 hour of my life I want back.
Okay, and on to rebuttals then. We'll start with Steven if you want to rebut the other movies.
All right. I have seen both of these movies, thankfully. I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to have any kind of ammunition here, but I have seen Alone in the Dark. I saw it in theaters, and I'm telling you, if anything, Christian Slater rules. I love him. We will be able to rewatch any Yui Ball movie with at least the modicum of understanding that it's going to be bad. They're all bad. Every single one of his movies is a pile of trash, but they're so fun to watch, including Are You Afraid of the Dark? Alone in the Dark. But I can't speak as much to the other movie because I saw it a very, very long time ago, and it's one of those ones that didn't stick in my brain. I remember the monster though, and you're right. It's terrible and creepy. But also, I feel like those types of movies you can sit back and also enjoy, even if they're bad. You're there to watch the bad. Whereas The Fourth Kind had so much potential, and it was set up in this mysterious way. The advertising for it was actually pretty well done, and I was excited. And leaving the theater, I was more than disappointed. I love aliens. I love abduction stories. This movie had both, and it just fumbled so hard. Whereas when I went in to see Alone in the Dark, I knew that it was going to be bad, and I still had a pretty good time. Them in their paintball armor, whatever they were wearing. I remember that as well. How much time do I have? A full 4 minutes rebuttal?
No, I think it's everyone has 4 minutes together.
No. Yeah, it's 4 minutes together. Everybody just jump in and go.
Yeah.
All right. So, Fourth Kind, I have seen that one. It was absolutely terrible. I will give you that. But I think that the main critique for that can be the way that it was actually marketed. It tried to be the Blair Witch for aliens, and it failed miserably. And I think if the marketing had just been honest about what it was going to be, it wouldn't have been such a disappointment. Whereas Alone in the Dark, like you said, everything Yubel makes is a steaming pile of Sasquatch crap. So yes, we knew it was going to be terrible, but it made me so angry, the amount of plot holes that you could ride a Rancor through, that I don't even see a comparison between the two. But I haven't seen Teenagers Battle the Thing, I'll be completely honest. But I think that one is going to rely more on our expectations of what a 1950s B movie could offer, as opposed to Alone in the Dark, which was a failure on absolutely every level of a modern movie.
I would say Teenagers Battle the Thing, I wouldn't even say that's like a B movie. That's like a Z movie. It looks like they've got like the earliest video camera they could find, and they just tried to do something with it. If I can give the movie any credit, it taught me about the difference between a petroglyph versus a pictograph. So a literal lecture in the film was the most memorable and interesting part of it to me. The only argument I can make against either one of those movies is that Alone in the Dark, I'm not really a fan of that video game, and I know Yui Bull has butchered just about every video game. In fact, I think, what was it? House of the Dead? I actually played some of the House of the Dead arcade games. If you would have said House of the Dead, I might have been there with you, but I'm not, as big of a fan of Alone in the Dark.
What about Dead or Alive? Did you like Dead or Alive?
I haven't played that.
Here's the thing, though, is that I think that The Fourth Kind could have been saved in editing. And I think if they kind of reeled back on the documentary footage and really leaned into it and made you believe that it was real, the movie could have been redeemed. And that's the most disappointing thing to me, is that this movie had potential and lost itself along the way. Whereas the other movies, they're bad and they're bad, and there's no going back at that point. Yui Ball is a villain who bought up a lot of movie rights in the early 2000s and is still capitalizing off of that villainy today.
Yeah, the only thing that could have redeemed Alone in the Dark is if someone had set the script on fire.
Halfway through, break the fourth wall.
Any last words? No?
Mine was the worst.
It's very convincing.
I think I'm going to go with truth on this one. I haven't actually watched it yet, but I did download it and I am going to watch it. I liked his argument that there's barely ever a monster in it, and if you're having a monster movie that doesn't have a monster in it hardly at all, it's not a great monster movie. It's just a bunch of teenagers. So I agree with him on that one. So I'll go with truth on that.
Thank you.
I feel like there's a Jaws argument there.
Jaws is all just the music.
Yeah.
Jaws had better performances, I'll say that.
Yeah. TV. What TV show did the best and most compelling job at portraying monsters or crypto creatures? And this round, we will start with Justin.
Ooh, all right. So, in my opinion, the best show that's done this was the original In Search Of, hosted by Leonard Nimoy, because it was literally the most important. Some could argue that One Step Beyond was technically the first, but I think In Search Of is the seminal television series dedicated to the weird corners of the world. And through the trusted voice of Mr. Spock, the wider audiences were actually introduced to these legendary creatures like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, ghosts, swamp monsters, Ogopogo, paranormal investigators. Without the pioneering brought in with In Search Of, you would never have anything like Monster Quest or Finding Bigfoot, or even like the X-Files. It walked so today's shows could run. For its contribution to the topic alone of cryptozoology and the widening of the audience, I think it deserves recognition as the best portrayal of cryptids on television, because while there have been more rigorous and scientific shows since, none of them can hold a candle to the OG.
All right. And Truth, it's your turn.
For my favorite cryptozoology TV show, the popular answer I think would be Monster Quest, but there's a lesser known show called Monsters and Mysteries in America that absolutely captivated me when I was a kid. This show, it has the classics. It has, Bigfoot, Thunderbird, stuff like that, but it wasn't afraid to also get into like the actually insane ones, like Mantis Man, the giant living mantis that can turn invisible and lives in New Jersey. It had Dover Demon Chupacabra, but then it would also have something like a three-toed Bigfoot that lived in a swamp. It would have the giant whale flathead lake monster that somehow lives in a lake despite being the size of a boat. It would have the Van Meter Visitor, which is a giant pterodactyl thing in Iowa that could fire a laser beam from its head and lived in a mine shaft. It had Bat Squatch, the flying bat ape hybrid thing of the Pacific Northwest. So not only did it cover just a wide variety of absolute insanity, but every episode was also very interesting. They would go into 2 mysteries or 3 mysteries every episode, and it was actually filmed pretty well. You'd have recreations, stuff like that were highly accentuated it.
Okay. And Steven.
So I went with a slightly unconventional answer, but we all remember the famous Sasquatch episode of this wonderful show, Tenacious D, and it is probably one of the best and most compelling portrayals of the creature to ever be committed to screen. But the show is largely forgotten to have played with other myths and legends as well, some ancient, some modern. But every episode was steeped in myth and legend, even when they were dealing with like the mundane, which makes it a modern mythological masterpiece, in my opinion. The other big one that people remember is him fighting the devil in the Crossroads situation, which is a classic story born in the American South of a musician forced to battle for his soul. They did lots of this kind of stuff. The cryptids themselves were always important key players to the narratives that often hinged on the success or failure of the two main characters. They weren't just foils or set pieces, but they had agency, just like Tenacious D itself. it used classic storytelling techniques paired with the band's top tier music talent to pull you along through the stories, often having the episodes feel like you're watching a stage play or a musical, which adds a lot to it. Reality television is great, but narrative storytelling is often more compelling, to me at least. Do I have time still?
No. That
Okay.
well.
No,
and-
unfortunately, I'm having some very technical difficulties over there. Everything's lagging on me when I'm trying to operate, so bear with me. I'm gonna put up the 4-minute timer.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
I will tip my
And
hat
that'll-
to in search of. In the episode I was referring to of Tenacious D, they literally have a song lyric that is "In Search of Sasquatch." That was a kick-ass In Search of with Leonard Nimoy kicking out the jams. Yeah. But I do think that there's something to be said about taking cryptids that people are familiar with and introducing them to potentially people that have never seen them before in creative and fun ways that might push people to something like In Search of that may not have any interest in it to begin with. This is how I got into monsters, was through movies and cartoon shows and all of that kind of stuff when I was a kid. And I think that it's an easy stepping stone and something that is a little bit more widely accessible than this is real. These are real things that you have to believe in. Watch it on this show that is telling you that it's real. It adds a little bit more mystique to it and scale that doesn't necessarily exist in something like In Search of or the other one that was referenced that I am not familiar with, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Although I look at even that episode of Tenacious D, which you freely admit on your own is derivative of In Search of, which is the same thing I feel about Monsters and Mysteries in America. It's again just derivative of In Search of. Sure, they got more granular in it. You get the more regional cryptids in there. I don't remember whether they did Puckwudgies, but I'd love to see an episode on that. I don't know. The OG is it for me. That's what it boils down to. You can't beat Leonard Nimoy telling me about Bigfoot. It's just you're not gonna. I'm sorry.
That's fair. Monsters and Mysteries in America did have a Puckwudgie episode. I would say I'm not as familiar with the other two shows, but Monsters and Mysteries in America wasn't all monsters. You know, they did cover things like, you know, cursed mountains, UFOs, and stuff. But of the three shows, I think it's the one that zeroed in the most on monsters and wasn't afraid to, you know, go outside the more popular ones. That's my pitch.
Well, I think that the question was, what is the best job and most compelling portrayal of monsters in the shows? And I think that narratively, Tenacious D does an amazing job of making you care about the characters beyond them just being monsters. So the other two shows, you're interested in it because they're monsters, but in these shows, you care about the monsters because of the portrayals. And it's clear to me that Jack Black and the writers of that team have a deep passion for legend, lore, and myth with how much they integrate it into all their projects, even outside of the TV show, the movie, their albums. All of them have to do with mythology, both modern and ancient. And it really shows, and it's clearly part of them. So I think that in terms of caring about the creatures and having them be compelling, I would go with Tenacious D over the other two.
I like your little appeal to authority there with throwing down the Jack Black. But I'm still going to say that I honestly don't think that it would be enough of a cultural phenomenon without In Search of for that to have even been an episode idea.
I mean, I would agree with you there, but I think that In Search of, it kind of brought the monsters home to a lot of people who were already interested in them, which gave Jack Black the ability to then hammer that down even further. So I would say that it's a stepping stone for certain, but I think that in terms of caring about Sasquatch, I'm going to watch the episode of Tenacious D over and over before I go back and watch an In Search of Sasquatch with Leonard Nimoy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would say nothing wrong with the classics, you know, but I do think that later shows can improve and build upon what, you know, some of these pioneering shows did and make it better.
Right. I think always presenting an epic tale is really fun and interesting, even if it's just about having to pay the rent on time and able to, you know, shoehorn in a dragon. Why not? It's great.
All right, I think lost our timer. Murphy, do we still have time?
I think he's gone. It's just us now,
Oh,
guys.
no.
I'm the judge. I win.
Okay. I will say all of your answers surprised me. It's definitely not, I didn't even think of like the more reality style show, which is crazy because Justin's correct. In Search of, that was my childhood. That is definitely what got me into the monster and the cryptids and all of that stuff. I remember watching that as a kid and having that reaction, you know, that Vulcan is teaching me about monsters. This is kind of cool. I haven't watched Truth's series, but I'm excited to. I'm actually going to start watching that. That sounds great. I am going to go with Steven on this. I really liked his argument. And I'm definitely a narrative person as well. So I get that argument, and I'm going to give the point to Steven.
Yes.
Do we have Murphy back? Okay. Music. What piece of music in a monster or creature movie or scene from a TV show set the tone best for what the director was trying to portray? And for this round, we will start with Truth.
So for my answer, what I want to go with is the Roar Overture from the film Cloverfield. What I like about it is it's kind of incorporates a lot of things. It's 9 minutes in length. So a lot of various, there's sing parts in there, then they can switch up to other musical styles. And Cloverfield, the movie, is as soon as it starts, as soon as, the introduction is gone, it's just one constant action scene after another, people running around, chaos, everything going on as they try to avoid the monster and the consequences of the monster. So I think having a long 9-minute song playing during some of these scenes is kind of the best way to sort of reflect that movie, where it is just one long sort of nightmare as they try to avoid it.
Okay. And Steven, you're up next.
Prepare to get cooked. Never has there been a theme song that has lasted an IP as long as the ancient ballad of the most recognizable and long-lasting kaiju, Godzilla himself. And I hate to say, it sounds like Cloverfield is a little bit derivative of that theme song. The song was first made in 1954 and written by a Japanese composer, Akira Ifukube. I think I said that right. If I didn't, I'm sorry. And it has changed very little since. The song has been used in practically every rendition of Godzilla since then. And there's a reason for that. And that is because it rules. It's a slow, bombastic song with an opening that is intense, and it moves into this sort of triumphant sound that you can pair with both the Godzilla and as well as people in fear, armies preparing themselves to fight the giant lizard. It works on so many levels without ever having to change over, almost 60 years. And, that doesn't work anymore. If you hear the original Spider-Man theme in a movie, it's a punchline now. The IP theme songs change with every single rendition of it. That's not the case with Godzilla. It worked back then, and it still works today without having to change anything at all.
And Justin.
All right. So I propose that the entirety of Ennio Morricone's scoring of John Carpenter's The Thing could fit under this, but I'm going to choose Contamination in particular. I think that the score for this entire movie and Contamination in particular really really highlight the isolation and paranoia that John Carpenter was going with, even though it is a departure from regular John Carpenter electronic scores. You could argue that Ennio was slightly underused, but I think that his particular attention to minimalism for the whole score was completely intentional. I think the pulsing rhythms and the electronic sounds that it does use really build the atmosphere of The Thing, which is one of my favorite monster movies of all time. It really syncs up with the visuals that Carpenter is presenting on the screen. The dissonant notes and the haunting tones have a real emotional resonance to them. They're not new.
Wowie zowie, that was creepy. So, I mean, those are both great choices. I think that they're both very different. I would also posit that my choice and Truth's choice are very similar. I would also argue that without the Godzilla theme, we didn't get the whole kind of scope of it, but it sounds very, very similar to the Cloverfield scene, and I would be surprised if that wasn't inspiration. And therefore, it wouldn't exist if the Godzilla theme didn't exist. I'm sorry to say. I think that the bombastic horns at the beginning of the Godzilla theme perfectly encapsulates doom and destruction on the horizon, and the triumphant sounding horns and strings that come after that perfectly pair to people running in peril, soldiers getting ready to fight a giant lizard, and the lizard himself. It works on so many levels that you can intersplice it with almost anything, and you can still achieve exactly what you're trying to get, which is fear, destruction, and hope all at once. It all just depends on what you're slapping on screen with it. The visuals almost always work. I was trying to bring up at the end there that even Charlie's Angels uses the Godzilla theme with Sam Rockwell as the villain, breakdancing to it, and it still works. You get the idea that he's an evil mastermind just from Godzilla's theme. As for the Thing, I agree. I think that it's an amazing score, but that is probably not the song that I would have chosen for that movie, though it does kind of encapsulate the maddening nature of paranoia. I would agree with that.
I would argue that while I love the Godzilla theme and that Truth's choice of Roar, which is definitely an homage to it, are both really effective in their usages in their particular films. I think that the only reason that Godzilla's is considered as effective as it is because it's been reused so many times, which you could argue is because it's so effective, I suppose. But I still think that the uniqueness of the score and Contamination in particular in The Thing make it stand out and really, really drive home what John Carpenter was going for.
All I have to say is, of the two music choices, if we're gonna call Cloverfield derivative of Godzilla, Godzilla itself is actually a derivative of an American movie called The Beast of 20,000 Fathoms that came out years before it and directly inspired it. That's all I have to say on the music.
Okay, well, I would argue that the music is what we're talking about, not the film itself. I find it very difficult to argue against The Thing just because I love it so much. But in terms of it being effective, it is effective, but you've also seen movies for decades take the themes from other movies and tweak them ever so slightly or change them dramatically in order to modernize them, and they don't need to do that with the Godzilla theme. Sure, they'll add more instruments, but they're not ever adding anything to it to change it dramatically. So I think that its effectiveness is underlined by the fact that it is almost completely intact from the first time it was ever composed.
I would also argue that the Godzilla theme is more a theme song of a monster as opposed to a piece of music that's meant to set the tone of what the director is trying to portray in a film. I think it's used more as like a title card for the monster, whereas with contamination, it's definitely used to heighten the atmosphere and drive home the director's point, which makes it a better answer to this question.
Damn you, that was a good answer. I would agree that it is a title card for Godzilla, but as I was saying before, it also perfectly encapsulates anything else that's going on in the scene, with outside of just the introduction of that song, which I would say is Godzilla's entrance. The rest of the song also has remained intact. They don't change that as well, and it works so well with a city in peril and people preparing to fight. But yeah, I think that in terms of recognizability, I think you could play mine and everybody would know what it is. The other two, not so much.
All right. I mean, good arguments. I'm going to give this one to Justin. I think he argued his the best. So yeah,
I knew I had lost like immediately. It's like, no, not the Thing. I can't argue against the Thing.
It was between the Thing and Alien, so
I was convinced someone was going to pick Jaws. No one picked Jaws, surprisingly.
I didn't pick Jaws because I assumed one of you two was going to pick
That's
Jaws.
why I didn't pick Jaws.
I was surprised there was no Jaws either. All right. And sports. So we've seen a werewolf play basketball. If you were the coach of an amateur or pro sports team, what one monster would you draft and what sport would it be? And in this round, we are starting off with Steven.
All right, sports fan. I'm assuming there's at least one here. We all know the most famous sport of them all, chess. And we also know about the Cyclops. He's big, he's odd looking, and he has one big old eye. But did you know that that eye is all-seeing? Like a beholder from D&D, the Cyclops has the gift of foresight and the ability to plan and literally see a multitude of possible futures, giving it the edge in mental combat. And what is chess other than a battle where you use your mental ability to judge your opponent's next move? Not only would the Cyclops be able to make informed decisions on the battlefield, it would quite literally be able to see all the potential moves that their opponent would make and choose the most beneficial move to combat it. Chess is a game where you need to think 5 moves ahead. The Cyclops doesn't have to think about anything. The Cyclops can literally see 5 moves ahead and plan accordingly. He would be undefeatable. He would be the true champion. The Queen's Gambit would be his.
And Justin.
Right. So I can safely say, because I'm blind in one eye, my sports ball skills are very limited. But what I do know about sports allows me to know for certainty that adding a Minotaur to my football team is going to be the best addition of a mythological creature to a sports team. The Minotaur, the strength, the agility, the ferocity, the psychological effect, the merchandising opportunities, the things it'll do for morale on the team. I mean, there's very little drawbacks to having a Minotaur on your as a linebacker on your football team. The strategic thinking, instincts. I mean, the reflexes on that thing, the tactical versatility. I mean, think about it. You're about to face down a sports ball man in front of you, and that sports ball man is a Minotaur. Game over, bro. I don't care what you're doing.
All right. And Truth, it's your turn.
So in 1831, a group of sailors in southern New Zealand claimed to see a giant kangaroo known as the Dusky Sound Beast, or kangaroo-like animal. Now, this kangaroo-like animal, their beast, was 30 feet tall, and the sailors observed it bending a large branch with its arms with ease. Once the kangaroo or the beast saw them, it had a 20-yard horizontal leap. So I say, let's draft this guy. Let's put him into a basketball game. He's 30 feet tall, so he can easily block shots. He can protect the rim. He's super strong, so he can finish around the rim. And whenever your team gets the ball, just give it to him and he'll hop, 2/3 of the court right into the basket and dunk it. Additionally, he is from New Zealand, and New Zealand is home to Steven Adams, who is a very good center as well.
Okay. And rebuttal time.
Well, I think in terms of entertainment, sure, a kangaroo would be cool and a minotaur would be cool. But in terms of winning the game, a cyclops who can see the future would be undefeatable. And I think that it would be a safe bet for any kind of chess coach to look for a cyclops to ensure victory. But, it might not be the most entertaining thing to watch. But I mean, I think it would be still pretty entertaining to see a giant one-eyed creature playing a little tiny chessboard with like a regular human.
I'm gonna go ahead and actually attack the core of your argument here and say that your answer is invalid because chess is not a sport. There's no physical exertion involved.
I don't think that was what
The
qualifies.
nature of the competition is completely different. It was an amateur or professional sports team, I believe, was the wording of the question.
Well, there are teams that are of chess players that are considered a chess team, and they compete against other chess teams. So that is a direct competition. It's a competition, not necessarily physical. I would consider chess a sport. Yeah, a mental sport.
I wouldn't say that it is. I wouldn't say
that would be like saying that video games are not a sport.
I don't. I think they're an e-sport, which is different than an actual sport. But yeah, I think that argument can be made as well. But as for a giant kangaroo, I just think too big. The size of him alone inside of a basketball stadium on a basketball court, he's taking up too much space. It's not practical.
I'm going to say, isn't the Cyclops, as all-seeing as it is, isn't it very easy to, famously, in the story of Jason the Argonauts, Odysseus, my bad. Isn't he famously able to be tricked?
So I mean, sure, but in what capacity are you trying to trick? Like, in what way would you trick the Cyclops to losing at chess?
In a game of chess, all I'm saying is mind games, feints, bluffs, all that is a part of chess. So I think there is at least a sliver. But with the giant kangaroo, that thing, you couldn't get the ball anywhere near the basket. If you're just a regular size 6'8" NBA player and you're driving down the court, that kangaroo is going to take one leap and be in front of the basket, and there's nothing you can do. You're getting that thing swatted out of the sky. There's no way you can score on him. And on the other end, tallest NBA player ever is like 7'6". That kangaroo could easily stand right in front of you and dunk it over your head, and there's nothing you could do about it.
I think when it comes to sheer entertainment value, crowd pleasing, marketability, Minotaur linebacker is where you got to go.
I think in terms of victory, which is the money maker, your coaches want to make money off of you. If you're going to be guaranteed victor, they're going to be more valuable. The Cyclops is the most valuable. He'll win every time. He knows your moves. He knows what you're going to do.
Who is betting on chess?
You'd be surprised. I lost all my savings on a chess.
Who is betting on these chess competitions?
Me, I do.
I'd believe it. I've seen the gambling addiction ads. I know.
I've been to Vegas. I've seen some of the weird things people
bet on everything, man. Have you heard of the money plane?
I just don't like kangaroos. I'm going to be honest with you.
I think in terms of entertainment, you guys both have it beat, but I think in terms of winning, the Cyclops is going to win every time. And therefore will be more valuable to a coach. And the coach is
who's gonna want to watch when there's no competition involved if they know he's gonna win every time.
The coach is the one you gotta impress.
Oh, that's a hard one. I kind of want to see all of that now. I don't even like sports. I think I'm gonna go with Justin on this one.
Of course. There was no way in hell I was winning with that one. I just thought it was a funny answer.
I loved your answer though. Like when I got that answer, I actually laughed. I'm like, that's pretty good. I can't wait to see what your argument is.
I had to attack chess as a sport because that one threw me for a loop.
Okay, on to history. If you could tame one ancient mythical creature, which would be the most useful to have around? And we're starting with Justin.
All right. So, in terms of mythological creatures, I posit that the most useful to have around would actually be a tulpa, which is, for those who don't know, a Buddhist thought form energy creature. They can be absolutely anything so long as you're able to imagine and concentrate hard enough on it. Once fully formed, a tulpa can act completely independently of you and always adhere to its intended purpose. Because they are a formed consciousness, you're not trapping really anything that's actually real. It's everything you're creating yourself. You can delegate tasks to it. Tulpas are completely malleable. They can be broken down and recreated for new purposes again and again. So long as you possess the mental training and fortitude to keep them in existence, you can use them for pretty much anything. They are invaluable for personal growth and self-discovery. Their applications are completely endless. Whatever other cryptids you're going to come up with, a tulpa could literally be that cryptid. So I don't see how you're going to be able to beat this one. Have a nice time.
Okay. And it's truth.
If we're talking completely tamed creature here, I'm going to say I got to go with the fairy. A fairy's got magic powers, and that with magic, anything's possible. You can break the laws, do whatever. It's also 2024. A lot of people outside of like Iceland don't have fairy protection anymore. So if somebody messes with you and you want to like replace their firstborn child or something like that, you can do it with the fairy. They're not going to stop you. So having a magical creature that can play anything from harmless but fun pranks on your coworkers to malicious, world-changing stuff. Maybe you can install a changeling as the president of a country somewhere. I'd say fairy has the most use out of any creature.
Okay. We'll let the clock run out.
I question that answer. Sounds very, very evil.
Okay, well,
this man has evil intent.
let's go with, hey, everyone has different uses for things. Let's
That's
go
true.
with your answer. Then,
I am going to pick the classic Jinn or Genie. I think it's the only answer. There are so many examples of things going wrong with a genie, but and the malevolence that comes along with these entities. But if we're going with the most positive examples of the Jinn, then the answer is simple. Befriending another planar entity that can grant wishes within reason is something that I think we all agree could be beneficial to us as individuals, but on a larger scale could change the world. I've spent my entire life planning out my wishes, and should I come across a Jinn in the wild, and even I've even gone as far as to think of contingencies and careful wording so I would avoid a horrible monkey's paw situation. But the question is the most useful, and making your deepest wishes come true is more useful than anything else that I can think of, even if it comes along with a little curse. But again, I've got this all written carefully just in case, and I keep it in my wallet at all times.
All right. Sounds like it's going to be a good rebuttal, I think, on this one.
I mean, tulpa sounds great, but I guess I could just wish for one. Then I would have a tulpa and a genie.
2 words for both of you. Emotional baggage. Okay? You got a genie that's been trapped in a lamp for thousands of years with people abusing him and wishing for the stupidest shit possible. He's going to be pretty pissed off. Even if you tame him, which is going to be ridiculously dangerous and a risky thing to try to do, he's still going to be pissed off. And the odds of him doing something purely out of spite just because you're a fleshy man creature are far too high. Same with a fairy. Fairies, first off, if you manage to tame a fairy and keep it with you all the time, the danger involved in that alone is astronomical. If you look at what fairies are capable of in folklore, especially if you try to capture them. And you've got that emotional baggage when it comes with fairies too, because they're extremely emotional creatures, and they're known to be driven by those whims. At Tulpa, you are creating it yourself. The only baggage you have to worry about is your own, and you're actually putting in the work to create it, which means it's also more satisfying than taking the shortcut of putting a fairy in a jar or rubbing a bottle and having a genie pop out.
I think that you just underlined the point, the devastating point of the only emotional baggage you have to worry about is your own. And we all have emotional baggage. And I fear what kind of emotional baggage would come out of you wishing yourself into a Tulpa situation. Well, what kind of horrible monster would you create? At least with a genie, you can reason with them. And in my situation, me and the genie fall in love and become life partners. And we exist for all time together until we get sick of each other, and then we go our separate ways. And I allow him to go, and I don't hold on to him.
I didn't realize we were doing cryptid / fiction. I would have changed my answer.
Listen, I told you I wrote all this out when I was 8, and it just gets crazier and crazier as it goes. But again, a tulpa, it sounds amazing, but it also sounds a little bit torturous and strange. You're creating an entity that has a consciousness that it can act individually of itself. Does it have free will? If it does, is it going to always want to live alongside you and do what you ask of it? And if it decides it doesn't want to, is that when you just destroy it? That doesn't sound like an existence that I want to have. As for a fairy, I don't know. It sounds like you're going to be up to no good with that fairy, sir. And I think you should go right to jail.
Well, I want to say I watched the show Twin Peaks, and in that show they have tulpas, and things do not go well. One of the tulpas is a crime lord. The other one commits business fraud and cheats on his wife. So I'm just saying tulpas might be a little underrated danger-wise. But as for the fairies, I think we'd be chill. I have a fairy garden somewhere upstairs. I wouldn't control it. I just put out, the exhibit somewhere, put it out in the woods somewhere and say, hey, chill here. And then if I need you, I need you. And I'm not saying I would use it to like replace world leaders or something with changelings. But, just in case if it came to that, hypothetically, the option is there.
Okay, I could see how that might be slight. I will concede that would be useful. Although I still think far too dangerous. And I think if you're willing to put in the self-work required to center yourself and be in a place to create a tulpa and to have that sort of mental discipline, I think you've probably already gone through years of cognitive behavioral therapy and maybe a few transcendental meditations, and maybe you had some ayahuasca or two, and you're mentally prepared for that sort of thing to when you engage in creating a tulpa. I definitely wouldn't advise anyone to do it without proper preparation, or you will end up with a Twin Peaks situation. But again, a tulpa, I can make a tulpa fairy, I can make a tulpa genie. I mean, I can make a tulpa genie of Robin Williams as the genie from Aladdin. It's endless tulpa, hands down.
I don't trust you.
I will say all of them sound terrifying to have around. Twin Peaks Supernatural had a tulpa episode, and that tulpa murdered people straight up. That was terrifying. That was a scary tulpa, that one. I'm going to go with truth on this one. Fairies are definitely scary. I agree with you all, but I absolutely agree that they would be super useful to have around, and I can think of a few people that I'd like to replace with them.
This guy's using his fairy as a death note.
Sometimes I think replacing people would be better for the world. And on to wild card. What crypto or mythical creature was or is most likely to be real? And with this one, we will start with truth.
All right. I'm going to take everybody back to 1889. So there was a zoological expedition by the Zoological Society of London that had multiple scientists in it. They captured what they thought was a new species of loris, except this time the loris had a long bushy tail, like a monkey a little bit. They observed it closely and even took a photograph, though It was 1889, so the photograph isn't of the best quality. And I've read their notes. I read their scientific paper. It's the closest I think any cryptid's ever been observed, been handled. Unfortunately, they thought that lorises were kind of like sloths, very sluggish. So they didn't lock the cage they had the lorises in, and they got away. But the amount of people who saw it, and in fact, a colonel in the area also said that he had seen them later on. But between the amount of people who saw it, the very plausible nature of the animal, the close quarters, and the photographic evidence, I think this one has the best chance of being real.
All right, Steven.
All right. I'm going with the unicorn. Not only is it possible a unicorn exists now, it's possible that they've existed in some capacity anywhere horses exist on planet Earth since the beginning of horses. Most mammals have a laminated layer of protection, a protein called keratin that grow off their bodies in some capacity, though they're generally localized to specific parts of the body in the form of like fingernails, claws, hair, and yes, horns. There are thousands of examples where mutations at birth cause things to grow in the wrong spots across the animal kingdom. It's possible this mutation could appear in horses, causing them to have things grow in the wrong spot, like a horn. Because this would be rare, seeing it in the world would give it a mythological property in ancient times. The rarity would make it special and magical. People back then would be like, look at that, it's the last of its kind. And then 200 years later, another group of people would see it, the same mutation, and the new people would say, there it is, it's the last unicorn, it lives forever. It does. Not only is it possible, oh no, damn it, I shouldn't have done the voices.
The voices get you.
And Justin.
All right. So my answer here is going to be giant humanoids. The prevalence of giant humanoid myth across diverse cultures suggests a definite shared cultural memory and encounters with large beings. You need to look no further than Joseph Campbell's highly lauded work, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, that talks about these points. There's been countless claims of large skeletal remains being found during archaeological and not so archaeological digs. Indigenous oral traditions, such as the Paiutes and other Native American tribes, describe these large beings. There is a scientific background and level of credibility to these claims as well. I mean, you need to look no further than Robert Wadlow, who died in 1940, who was 8'11". John Rogan, who died in 1905, who was 8'9". John F. Carroll, 8'8". Willie Camper, 8'7", and so on and so forth.
All right, rebuttal time.
All right. Rebuttal.
So to continue what I was saying, it is not only possible to occur naturally, a unicorn, but it's pretty evident that we could create one now in a laboratory. Cloning and DNA manipulation is something that is a proven technique that would allow us to create a unicorn if we wanted to. That doesn't negate the ethical questions that come up when you bring stuff like that up. They're pretty dubious. A horse has no reason to have a horn, but we could create a living unicorn if we wanted to, though it would probably be riddled with horrible diseases and die within a year of us making it. We could absolutely make one right now.
You can go to any zoo today and see a unicorn. They're called rhinoceroses.
Okay, it's not a horse though. That's not a horse. That's more like a cow. I'm talking horse. Horse with a horn. Horse with a horn.
I mean, I would say when it comes to giants, there's three issues because I've looked into a lot of cases of giants. One, people who dig up bones sometimes aren't experts on bones. They'll sometimes dig up things like mammoth bones and say, this looks like a human femur, but no, it's a mammoth bone. Two, there's this thing called the square cubed law where as animals get bigger, their weight and the strain on their bodies becomes larger. Robert Wadlow famously was only like 8'11", something like that, and he had a lot of issues, a lot of health issues due to his size. So I think that's a pretty big issue with there being giants in the past. Additionally, there are a lot of near human species in our past. Think things like Neanderthals or Homo floresiensis, but these were all very small because, if you look at evolution, as time's gone on, humans have tended to get larger, not started off large and got smaller. And so based on the available evidence, I would say that giants are probably not real.
I would say that 100% correct, especially on the square cube law. But I never claimed that they were long-lived giants, merely that they existed.
I think that statistically, the amount of mutations that occur naturally doesn't negate the fact that unicorn could exist somewhere in some capacity and be made legend. Even if only one existed at one time, there could have been one person that spread the rumor, and it continues to today. I think that unicorns existed. They existed. They're real. They exist right now. We can make one in a lab.
I have it on good authority that North Korea very much agrees with you. But
North Korea is the best.
I don't think that unicorns. Oh man, you have now become moderator of our Pyongyang. Yeah, it's I just don't think unicorns. Stick to Lisa Frank stickers for unicorns. That's how I feel about unicorns.
Oh man, if I had my
Don't tell
genie,
all of
I'd
Scotland
change
that.
your mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about, hey, we have 100 legends about the unicorn. We have 1,000 legends about the giant, but we don't have a unicorn body and we don't have a giant body. To me, that suggests that it's not a real phenomenon we're dealing with. We're dealing with just a story, something that humans have decided they liked and then decided to imprint it on
Keratin doesn't
stories.
actually fossilize, and it breaks down, so it wouldn't survive. So if it was made of keratin, it would just turn into mush, and it would just look like a horse.
Yeah, it would turn into some mush.
That one's tough. I mean, they were all good answers, and I kind of believe that all of them could have absolutely been real. So,
Would you like an extra minute of rebuttal, or would you? Do you
does
think you
anyone
can-
have anything more to say that could help sway me?
Yao Ming.
Yeah, I would say, imagine yourself riding on a unicorn. How awesome would that be?
I would say lorises are actually really cute, and I'm kind of glad they escaped from that cage.
I think that the loris picture is interesting but easily doctored.
Okay. I think. Oh. That's hard. I think I'm gonna go with Steven on this one.
Whoa! Shocking.
Just by a little bit. Just by a hair. That was tough. That's probably the hardest one I've ever had to judge ever.
I made all of that up.
And with that, we get the all too rare triple tiebreaker question.
My God.
Oh my gosh, did we really?
We do. Yes,
Oh.
I know you didn't write it, but I did get
That's
one
okay.
in there just in cases. So this is it. When Ashley, and this will be the continued rule for speed round questions after this. Once Ashley has finished reading the question, whoever gets the first shout out gets their choice. So that is how it works. So let her finish and then make your choice. And with that, here is the tiebreaker question.
All right. Choose one of the cryptids, Bigfoot, Nessie, or Chupacabra, and argue why the evidence supporting its existence is more credible than the evidence for the other two.
Nessie.
Bigfoot.
Take Chupacabra.
Who picked Nessie? Was that Truth?
That was me.
Okay, so Steve, you're gonna start first, and then Truth, and then we'll do Justin, and you get 1 minute.
All right. The reason I chose the Loch Ness Monster is because any other lake monster that we've heard of in the past has always been landlocked lakes that you would be able to search thoroughly. But Loch Ness has a series of waterways that lead out into the ocean, which you could argue that the Loch Ness Monster only goes in there, certain times of year, or even goes out to sea for large portions of its life before coming back in there to, I don't know, breed or chill or hibernate. I think that the fact that it is connected to the ocean makes it more believable than any other of the large lake lizards that supposedly exist across North America and the UK, strictly because it has the access. And it also, it has the most lore to it, going back the longest amount of time. And yeah, that's my. I'm gonna yield the rest of my time here. I think I made my point. It's also the one that I'm most familiar with.
And Truth.
With chupacabras, my argument is that chupacabras are an extremely widespread phenomena, even more widespread than you may think. There have been alleged chupacabra reports not just in Puerto Rico, where they began, but obviously Mexico, the United States, and even in places like Bolivia, India, Russia, Spain. So chupacabra has become somehow some sort of worldwide phenomenon. Now, this could be because they're aliens. This could be because they swim very well. Maybe they're tulpas, and that's how they're spreading around. The collective unconscious is creating these creatures. Additionally, there have been some pretty clear sightings of people reporting strange blue hairless dogs in conjunction with livestock attacks in the Southwest. Now, this might suggest that there is an actual new species running around causing all of these chupacabra attacks. For about 10 seconds, Loch Ness Monster, there was an eDNA survey of the entire loch that found no unknown animal DNA, which you would expect from a monster like that. And the first Bigfoot sightings were proven to be a hoax in the 90s. Reports, footprints.
Okay, and Justin.
All right. Number one, volume of sightings and reports. Thousands of Bigfoot sightings across the globe. Thousands in the Pacific Northwest alone. These reports span decades, come from a variety of witness types, including credible people like law enforcement. Physical evidence, you got your footprints, you got your hair samples, you got your audio recordings. There's a lot more physical evidence for Bigfoot than there is for Chupacabra or Nessie. The consistency and the detail in reports are largely the same across most Bigfoot sightings, or at least have a thread of familiarity to them. The cultural impact of Bigfoot himself or itself, and the amount of research organizations that have sprung up around him is much greater than any of those for the Chupacabra and Nessie. And a lot of scientists and academics have shown more interest in Bigfoot than they have in Chupacabra or Nessie as a possibility. And also, Chupacabra being a collective consciousness would be an egregore and not a tulpa.
All right. And then I'm just picking two from this, right?
You're actually gonna pick which one had the worst.
Oh, that's mean.
You don't have to word it that way, World Mind God.
Yeah.
Least convincing, maybe.
Oh, all right. I mean, I hate to do this.
You know what? Actually, we're gonna put 1 minute on so everybody has an open debate. Normally it's like 4 minutes, but just because we're doing 1 minute open debate on this. So
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's even a competition. I think that the amount of evidence, sightings, and research done on Bigfoot clearly makes the winner out of Nessie or Chupacabra. As much as I love both of them, they just don't hold a candle to the Man in the Mountains.
When it comes to the
Open,
Chupacabra,
jump.
my big defense, you haven't seen expeditions for the Chupacabra. In the 60s and 70s, there was an entire bureau dedicated to investigating Loch Ness, and they didn't find the Loch Ness monster. When it comes to Bigfoot, every year, an organization sends out dozens of expeditions into multiple states, especially in the Pacific Northwest, and they haven't found anything. And with the Chupacabra, there haven't really been any expeditions to try and find it.
I think that would support the fact that it's not real because nobody believes that it's real.
Yeah, because it's so ridiculous. Goat suckers, come on.
It's just bats.
Someone's doing it.
Mangy dogs.
Just some creep out there.
One guy.
The Night Stalker's dog.
All right.
Who had the weakest answer?
I think I'm gonna say, and I'm really sorry because I really like you, Stephen. I think you had the weakest answer on that. I think they argued against yours better than you argued against theirs.
100% agree.
You are the weakest link.
Oh God, so rude.
Sorry, I didn't have a sound effect for this one, so I just realized I gotta get that.
Jeez, you might as well just play a foghorn like you do with like a stinky cartoon character.
Wah, wah. With that means we have Justin and Truth going on to the final speed rounds. So that means.
And now it's time for the speed round.
Again, Ashley will finish the question, and then you guys are going to jump out. You'll have 30-second openers and then 15-second rebuttals each. And then if Ashley decides, you can choose more. So with that...
Okay. I went a little more fun on the speed round questions. So for movies, if you were to create a mockumentary style movie like what we do in the Shadows, which creature would be more entertaining to watch? Bigfoot or Medusa?
Medusa. I would say Medusa would be much more entertaining to watch simply because the gag of whoever she's having a conversation with turning to stone all the time and screwing up all the interviews, I think personally would be absolutely hilarious. I think having it done in what we do in the Shadows style would be absolutely fantastic. I would like to see somebody really good comedic actress play a Medusa and have some of the same cast from what we do in the Shadows. I think it would be fantastic. I think you do a lot more with Medusa than you do with Bigfoot.
30 seconds for Truth.
All right. With Bigfoot, what we do in the Shadows, modern day Bigfoot getting the hijinks, somehow not getting caught. Maybe he breaks into a gas station the second a power outage takes out every security camera somehow. Maybe since that is what we do in the Shadows, there's an organization dedicated to hunting Bigfoot and one dedicated to protecting Bigfoot's secret. And they're both awful at their jobs and they're both constantly failing. But somehow through it all, Bigfoot remains undiscovered, undetected, and hidden.
All right, rebuttals.
I think that, while hilarious, I think that gag would run out real quick. You couldn't get more than one season out of it before it became completely unbelievable, whereas the gag with everyone turning to stone could be used over and over again to the increasing frustration of whoever was supposed to be the director/producer of the show.
I would say even watching a Medusa show or even filming it would be dangerous because wouldn't the cameraman, looking through the lens, maybe that would turn to stone, maybe the cameraman would turn to stone. I don't even know how you get that thing produced, but with Bigfoot, something like that, yeah, he might come out a little blurry on camera, but at least they'd live.
I really like the idea of both of these. And my favorite thing is that you pitched me the exact things I was thinking when I was writing this question. I'm going to go with Justin. All right. And for TV, what would make a funnier odd couple style sitcom? Alien and Predator or Godzilla and King Kong?
Godzilla and King Kong.
Let's go Alien and Predator.
I'd say Godzilla and King Kong would be absolutely hilarious because you would have no actual dialogue. So it would mostly be based on secondary character dialogue and body language from the two main characters. I think the screeches and the roars could be used to great comedic effect. I think you could have a lot of great visual gags with it. I think the thought of the Odd Couple as actually redoing shot for shot episodes with Godzilla and King Kong is hilarious.
All right.
Alien and Predator. I mean, we've seen Godzilla, we've seen King Kong together. They actually seem to get along pretty well after the first 20 minutes of the movie. With Alien and Predator, they definitely do not get along very well in the movie. So I think something where the Predator is a very solitary sort of figure, very serious, very gruff guy, while the Alien is more comedic, like we've seen in Spaceballs, to be pretty funny. Maybe Aliens constantly like popping out children and somehow the Predator has to become like a foster dad to 300 alien babies. That could be something.
All right.
While two
rebuttal.
aliens and a baby would be hilarious, I can't see it working as well as Godzilla and King Kong as an odd couple. We all saw, well, I hope we didn't actually all see Alien versus Predator, but I just don't think they have that chemistry that Godzilla and Kong have. I don't think it's going to work.
I just think we're going with the odd couple theming here. Godzilla, King Kong, they're both big. They both eat people. Well, I'm sorry, they both don't eat people, but they both crush people. And I think that Alien versus Predator are two very different things, while Godzilla and King Kong are a fairly similar concept.
All right. I'm going to give that one to Truth. No, also, no slagging on Alien vs. Predator. It's a terrible movie, but I love it. All right, in music. Which TV show had the better opening theme song? X-Files or True Blood?
X-Files, hands down. True Blood was garbage. Everything about that show was garbage. I don't even acknowledge it exists. It was absolute trash. I would rather watch the last season of How I Met Your Mother on repeat for eternity than watch True Blood. I can't express my hate for that show enough. X-Files is iconic. Everybody knows that theme song. It became a dope trance hit in the 90s. Nobody made a dope trance hit out of that opening for True Blood. Not even a contender. I can't even believe this is a question.
So passionate.
I'd say, obviously X-Files is very iconic, very well used, going back to that other argument about it being used a bunch. But I will say True Blood, the theme song that I listened to for 5 seconds while you were going through your argument, it's a little funky from what I heard. I think there's something to having a song open up your TV show versus a sort of theme. True Detective did that well. Obviously, True Blood's an HBO show, so.
All right, rebuttals.
The only thing that I want to do really bad things to is True Blood itself and the opening and that theme song. And if I never hear it again, I will be a very happy man. Whereas I could listen to the In fact, I'm going to listen to the X-Files as soon as this debate's over.
I will say, I actually do think, once again, I do like that they actually put a song together, a full song. But I am probably going to do the same because I have the X-Files partway through season 2 right now as we speak. So, no argument there.
I was literally watching X-Files right before we started this. I mean, I'll have to go with Justin. He definitely gave the better argument. I'm sorry that I gave you Truth. I'm sorry you got one that you didn't know. I always liked that one. I thought it fit with the show. All right, and in sports. In the spirit of the New Jersey Devils, what would make a better pro sports team name? the Vancouver Ogopogos, or the New Orleans Rougarous?
I'm going
Ogopogos.
Rougarous.
Perfect.
Oh, brilliant.
I think I heard truth first on that, so he's going to go first for this time.
Yeah.
So New Orleans Rougarous, werewolf concept, very huge, and especially since New Orleans is, the French Quarter, Rougarous and werewolves are huge in France. There's the whole Beast of Gavardon thing where a werewolf sort of thing ate 200 people or whatever they say it was. And dogmen, werewolves, a very iconic creature. While the Ogopogos, they're good, but they're like a third-rate lake cryptid.
Now, I'm going to run with that because I think the fact that they are a third-rate cryptid, and I'm willing to concede that point, is exactly why they are the better choice. It's going to bring the Ogopogo, it's going to bring the Lake Ogopogo tourism up. It's going to bring the credibility of Ogopogo. It's going to raise that up. Vancouver is a very passionate city when it comes to its sports, so Ogopogo is going to be everywhere once we get the Ogopogos going. I think that it's going to help national unity. It's going to bring this country together in a way our current government is not able to do.
Wow. All right, rebuttals.
Well, technically, I should say the traditional name for the Ogopogo is Naitaka, so that would be something I'd change right off the bat because that has been debated before. And Rougarou, a werewolf, that would tear an Ogopogo to pieces.
A Rougarou, okay, a werewolf might be able to tear an Ogo to pieces, maybe, but not before the Ogopogo wraps it up and drowns it like the mangy mutt that it is. It can stay down in New Orleans where it belongs. It has no place on a sports field or in a stadium. Werewolves belong eating people, not playing sports.
All right. I'm going to go with Justin on this one. And for history, what ancient Scottish creature is actually a better mascot for Scotland than the Loch Ness Monster? The Kelpies or the Changelings?
Kelpies. I would definitely say that the Waterhorse Kelpie is much better for Scotland. I think it is a more terrifying, awe-inspiring mascot than the lowly Lisa Frank-loving unicorn. I also think that because North Korea loves unicorns so much, maybe Scotland shouldn't lean into that so far. That's just me. I think that the Kelpie is much cooler, much more dangerous, and can even be made cute. See the water horse.
Okay.
Kelpies are dangerous, but it's like, hey, you don't like horse riding, you have nothing to fear from a Kelpie. Just don't get on. With the Changeling, they're so insidious that I would not, if the Scotland had a Changeling, I wouldn't even mess with it because that thing could replace you, could replace your kids at any time. You don't want to mess with that thing. Changelings also have only a weakness to iron, and hey, 21st century again. Not a lot of people out here using iron swords. They don't have one in their homes anymore.
Rebuttal?
I'm going to say that a lot of houses in Scotland seem like they'd be old cottages to me, so they probably have an iron fireplace poker around, so having a Changeling as a mascot wouldn't be super fantastic. Not to mention the fact that a Changeling is kind of a terrible, evil thing, and I really wouldn't want it representing my country.
Hey, Changelings are more intelligent. I will admit that. They're a little bit more malicious, but a Kelpie, that thing, you get on it, it's going to drown you 100 times out of 100 times. All it does is exist to kill people and bring them to their watery graves.
All right, I'm going to go with truth on that one. All right. And wild card. What cute and cuddly kids monster would make a more terrifying horror story? Sully from Monsters, Inc. or the Cookie Monster?
Cookie
Sully.
Monster.
Oh.
Okay.
Cookie Monster, 100%, only because I grew up with Cookie Monster in my childhood, so I could actually mentally picture how scarring it would be to have a horror movie version of Cookie Monster just chasing you throughout a bakery. Your bakery closes at night, and suddenly Cookie Monster shows up, and you got to battle Cookie Monster until dawn. That shit's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Sully is absolutely freaky if you think about it for 10 seconds. He's this guy and he's going into every child's bedroom across the entire world. That is beyond horrifying. And what's every child's biggest fear besides something underneath the bed? Something in the closet. If you heard your kid say that there is a giant blue horned monster in their closet, you'd be pretty scared if it was actually in there and you opened the closet door to go face to face with Sully.
I think even if you came face to face with Sully in your kid's closet, Sully is kind of a bumblebutt. He's a lumbering guy. He's not going to get after you too quickly. Whereas Cookie Monster's got the energies. You see that guy? Like, I don't know how many of you have watched Sesame Street before, but he moves quick.
Yeah, Sully, he's a little bit lumbering, but Cookie Monster, easy way to distract him, just start throwing cookies behind you. It's a huge weakness, huge Achilles heel. If I'm going through a bakery, I'm home, I got Oreos, I just got to throw a couple of cookies behind me and I can make for the hills.
Okay, if you were to turn these stories into a movie, I want each of you to pitch me the movie.
Okay. Nicolas Cage owns a bakery. He's opened it with his new family. He closes it down at night. Suddenly, he hears a break-in the back door. He comes around a corner, and there's Cookie Monster, who is no longer hungry for the cookies in the store, but the cookies that he's been eating all day.
All right, here we go. Also Nicolas Cage. Grizzled Nicolas Cage lost his son 20 years ago to something living in his closet. And now he has to track down cases all over the world to finally get a chance at the man or the monster responsible for his son's disappearance.
Oh.
If you have trouble deciding, Ashley, you can reach out to the panelist Steven here to get his retorts or remarks or thoughts or concerns.
Actually, I'd
man.
like to know what Steven has to say about this.
I think that Justin had the great elevator pitch. It had me, he's hungry for the cookies inside of you is horrifying. But the idea of Nicolas Cage having to go all over the world to do some sort of globe-trotting detective work is also really intriguing. So it depends on if you want true horror, or if you want more of a thriller. Truth is a thriller. Justin is a horror.
Yeah.
Well said.
All right. I will say one thing before I choose. Sully is only kind of bumbling in Monsters world. In his job, when he's scaring those children, he's the top scarer. He is terrifying to those kids. There's a reason that he gets more scares than Randall, who's supposed to be the bad guy in the movie. Sully is a terrifying monster. And if you made that from the point of view of the kids, where this monster is coming out of your closet, that's terrifying. I'm going to go just based on that pitch, though, with Justin, because that movie sounds amazing, and I want to see Cookie Monster ripping people apart to get to the cookies that they've eaten earlier in the afternoon.
Imagine the body horror possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fucking rule! Fucking rule!
And with that, we have a winner in the wonderful Justin Vaughn. Congratulations, Justin.
Thank you very much to my fellow debaters.
With that being said, thank you everybody for joining us in this cryptozoology episode. Thank you, Ashley Millard, for being a host. Ashley, where can people find you and what things you doing?
Oh, I'm part of the United Federation of Podcasts, basically doing all the Star Trek podcasts over there. I do have a Star Trek trivia coming up in July. We don't have an exact date yet, but I'll be doing my silver screen edition, so it's going to be trivia all about the Star Trek movies.
Awesome. And we've got some comments from the fans. Congrats, Justin. Wonderfully done. They enjoyed the show. Justin, where can people find you and the things that you like to do or not do?
You can find me on Instagram, where I rarely post anything more than pictures of my cats or memes making fun of Henry Zabrowski from Last Podcast on the Left, at Justin Velociraptor. I am available for all of your weird podcasting needs. Just reach out to me and I will gladly rant on whatever you need for a while. I really appreciate this. This was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, guys.
No, you did great. Thank you so much for joining us. And with that, from the depths of the internet, thank you, Truth, for responding to my Twitter invite to this and joining us. Where can people find your amazing content?
Truth is Scarier Than Fiction on YouTube. Got a lot of videos about cryptids uploaded there. And then on Twitter, you can find me at @bestcryptids.
Amazing. Came here for Truth. Justin and Steven seem super chill and funny. Would love to watch more of their stuff. Well, you can definitely watch more of their stuff. Steven, where can people find more of your stuff?
Oh, me? You can find me right here on the United Federation of Podcasts every Thursday night, where I host with my co-host Jason R. Phillips the Hey Did You See This One podcast, where we do a round table discussion of a movie. We typically do themes every month, and actually next month we're doing all cryptid movies. So if you're into cryptids, check that out. We have 4 movies picked, but if the theme is well received, we might make it a recurring theme. Also, Darth Theorist is a YouTube channel that I provide a lot of voices for. So if you guys are interested in sort of what if Star Wars stories, I'm currently doing a lot of that. Check it out. It's fun. It's goofy, but I really enjoy it. And other than that, you can follow me on social media at Bubba Blackfly, where I do lots of illustration and voice work.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And apparently, Jason is currently writing. He thinks it's a collusion that you lost. Unfortunately, our wonderful host, Ashley Merritt-Lard, made them choices. So you can send your complaints to her, but don't, because she's awesome.
I promise they weren't easy choices.
Sam, you were asking me, superfan Sam, what are the upcoming themes? Well, you know what? I actually do have a few lined up, so I'll let you know them here and now. Next month, we are doing a Star Trek theme. We have host Dave Mater coming in with 3 very special guests. That is going to be a great episode. I'm not going to reveal who, but stay tuned and you will find out. And then in August, we're doing a Game of Thrones theme, and then we'll go from there. But until then, thank you all for joining us here at Trivial Debates for the fun of debating silly nonsense. You can find more of our content at the United Federation of Podcasts, where we have a whole host of awesome podcasts, which you will see in the wonderful outro video that I'm going to leave you all with. Until next time, every last Sunday, you will find us here at Trivial Debates. Please subscribe, hit comments, let us know your thoughts, let us know a theme you want to do, and follow these lovely people. Thank you, and until then, bye-bye.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, Did You See This One? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on Trivial Debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.